Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm here in the studio with Kathy Ohman of Forward, Bill Cannata of the Autism and Law Enforcement Education Coalition, called ALEC, and Glenn Loomis, who is Administrator of Life Skills at Capabilities, and Troy Smith, who is Marketing Manager at Capabilities. Welcome all of you to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Now, these groups are all getting together for a free program on Tuesday, February 24th that is safety training for families of children with special needs. The program is scheduled for 6 to 8 p.m. at the Dennis Police Headquarters. Now, let's start with Bill Cannata for an explanation of the program ALEC, Autism Awareness Training for First Responders. How did this program come about, and what is it?
Okay, Laura. In 2003, in the Boston area, there was a group of parents concerned with their children with disabilities, specifically autism, about having contact with first response officials, and they wouldn't understand about our children and adults and wouldn't know what to do. So we formed a group called ALEC, the Autism Law Enforcement Education Coalition, and we launched our first program in 2004 to train the South Norfolk County area. This group was sponsored by the ARC of South Norfolk and also, at the time, District Attorney Bill Keating, who was a Norfolk County DA at the time, now the congressman here in the Cape District. And our initial goal was to train South Norfolk County. But within that time, the state, DDS, Department of Developmental Services, found out what we were doing and decided we need to make this a state initiative. And through Bill Keating and the ARC, we were funded by the state in 2006. So initially, we were supposed to train probably maybe 300 responders in our area. Today, we've trained over 32,000 responders nationwide.
It's amazing how this has spread in such a new program. Now, Kathy, as the mother of 2 autistic sons, and you and your husband founded Forward to have a residential community for people with autism on the Cape. And how did you find out about ALEC?
That's a good question, Laura. I actually found out about ALEC initially through my congressman, Bill Keating, probably marching in a St. Patrick's Day parade with him. But we were talking with him about Forward, which stands for Friends or Relatives with Autism and Related Disabilities, and talking with him about our goals to build this residential community. And he told me about ALEC and suggested that we get on board with training. Also, I had the opportunity to speak with a Dennis police officer recently and about concerns about dealing with people with autism, and that sometimes they're called to a group home or to a public setting and they're not sure how to respond, what's effective, what they should do. And that's how our local trainings in Dennis came about, that I said to him that I was aware that there was training, and then I started thinking that if we're going to move into a neighborhood in Dennis, shame on us if we don't provide training for fire and police and let people know that we're there and how we can work together.
Now, of course, Capabilities provides a wide range of services for people with disabilities on Cape Cod. Now, Glenn, how did you hear about ALEC? How is Capabilities involved with this?
With Capabilities, we're involved with any type of partnership that would provide the best services for the 350 people across Barnstable that we support. ALEC is a great training to be involved with Forward and other projects to sponsor this. Only provides more awareness of what the needs are on Cape Cod and, of course, across Massachusetts and in the nation. We support people with autism at this point in time, and we know that we'll be supporting more down the road.
And now, Bill, in terms of ALEC helping people throughout the state, what are the special issues for first responders when dealing with someone with autism?
Well, the first piece, especially with law enforcement, is recognition. If they're able to recognize it, even on approach, that's going to just change their whole approach. and which is very important. And we teach them about how to actually work with them, how to communicate. Communication is a big issue with a lot of our people, especially with autism. 50% are nonverbal. So there's a bridge you have to gap right away. And then we talk about behaviors and how they're going to present. We give them a lot of videos so they can see this in the videos and apply it to their work in the street. And what we want them to do is to recognize it as soon as possible so they can change that whole approach towards them. And we've had tremendous success. We get a lot of feedback. And they tell us, yes, because of the training and the videos that we have seen, it changed our whole approach, and we've had some great outcomes. And what we were seeing nationally are not so great outcomes, and this is what we're trying to prevent. And we feel we've been very successful. We had a training in Dennis for the police department in November, and they applied the training that afternoon. Right in front of the station. And they said the training really helped them tremendously, and that's what we're looking for.
Obviously, there's a great need for it. And Kathy, as a mother of sons who have autism, what is a parent's fear about how first responders or others will approach people with autism with perhaps myths or misunderstandings about what's going on?
Well, I think, as Bill said, because lots of these people have big communication difficulties, even if they have some language, they have a lot of anxiety, they're not able to communicate. And, the biggest concern a parent has is that your adult child especially, who's large and adult size, will be harmed and handcuffed and taken away. And that happens sometimes. I was in a situation with a Dennis police officer who was untrained and who did an incredible job he knew I was on the way. He waited. He was very, very patient in a situation that he really had very little understanding about who he was dealing with. But it was in a library, and the people in the library were very familiar with my son. So if people don't, people with autism can look like they're on drugs or, have substance abuse issues. They can look like they're having some kind of nervous breakdown, I suppose. And when they're agitated, they can be very upset, and it can be pretty scary. So it's important for first responders to know what they're dealing with.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. We're talking about an important program coming up on Tuesday, February 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Dennis Police Headquarters. That is safety training for families of children with special needs. Now, who should think about attending this session? Because it's not just for parents. It's not just for public safety officials.
Yeah, thanks. Parents, certainly, but also our board is made up of parents and friends and community members, teachers, people who work with people with autism. But we have friends in the community who maybe know our specific children on an individual basis, but don't have a lot of formal education or training about what autism is and what people look like. So I would encourage people who have an interest or who have friends. What we see a lot is people who have friends with adult children with autism, and we welcome them to join us and ask questions and learn about what they're seeing.
And Glenn, in terms of capabilities, which I'm sure does quite extensive training for your staff, and how does this type of training jibe with the type of training that you already do with your staff?
Well, the training is the key component of providing the best services, and we are actually in a position now. We are looking for certification programs based on dealings with individuals with autism specifically. We know that when trainings like this occur, it will benefit every member of our program, and that's what we are aiming for. ALEC is just one more feather in the cap to learn the best approach and to apply the best skills to deal with the individual. And it also goes beyond just that training piece. We are also in an awareness that so many other factors that come involved into our program, environmental, social aspects. For our employment person, is educating the employer about what a person's needs are. This is just, again, one step further to allow people to understand what that person may need for either additional emotional supports or just an understanding of what their world is like. And our partnership, again, with Forward and ALEC is just another step toward understanding, training, and applying the best service.
Now, Bill, one thing you said earlier intrigued me about how do you deal with people who are nonverbal, and getting into some specifics of the training. How do you do that?
Well, first of all, the biggest piece is disclosure and knowing about people with autism and other disabilities. That way, if you know about it ahead of time, then and you understand it, you're going to respond better to that. Now, the communication piece it's complex because it's very individual. You can't say this communication works for everybody with autism because it's the furthest from the truth. So we show them the different methods that people who are nonverbal use. Communication picture cards, output devices, electronic output devices. Today we have with technology now we have programs for tablets or even smartphones that people can communicate with these devices, so it makes it much easier. And we share this with these responding agencies because they may come across a person that is using this type of device. And what our philosophy is not just the first response community we train, but anybody who's going to have contact with people with autism and developmental disabilities need to know about them, need to know a little bit more about them. And just some simple tips we give them, especially what we call stimming. And it's a behavior and how they present and things that they'll do, that they need to do to help keep themselves calm and focused. For us, as parents of people with autism, we understand it. We know how our children and adults behave. But in public, as Kathy said a little bit earlier, that a lot of times people think it's they're high on drugs, it's intoxication. So these are the pieces that we need to teach people why they do this and how they benefit from it.
And I'm thinking if someone does see someone having some sort of an anxiety issue, that perhaps calling first responders, is that considered more of a last resort? Should someone try to deal with it without doing that? Or would you recommend to bring in first responders when something like that is happening? Bill?
Sometimes, actually, if it's in public, people are probably going to call 911, and that's the importance of training our first response officials. But there are cases, a lot of times family members will handle a behavior out in public on their own and will not request assistance because they may be able to handle it. But this day of technology with everybody having a phone, often the call is made to the 911 services and they do get involved. So what we like to train these first responders, tell them that really listen to these parents and care providers. It's important. They're going to give you valuable information, work with them. And we've seen some success with that. And because a lot of times law enforcement, first response officials come in and they want to take over because that's what we do. We arrive and we fix problems. Okay, I was a career firefighter for 35 years, so that's what I did. But this is the one we say, listen, step back, evaluate your scene, and work with these parents and care providers. They're going to give you the valuable information you need to resolve the issue that's taking place.
And Bill, I noticed in your literature an interesting stat that autism affects 1 in 64 people today, and it's growing at a rate of 10 to 15% per year, which is staggering, and that it is not a matter of if you will come into contact with someone from the autism community, but it is when you do. And
that's correct.
That was an interesting stat.
Yes, with those numbers, it's most likely going to happen with first response officials. City of Boston EMS started tracking autism calls last year, and it came back to at least one call a day on the EMS side. And now they have a new computer system where they'll be able to track police, fire, and EMS. So we expect that statistic to rise.
Now, in the final couple of minutes, is there anything you'd like to add about this important event coming up?
Actually, the event is we're doing this after training first responders and dentists, police officers, firefighters, the EMS side, paramedics. And now this is a program that we like to get everybody in the room and discuss the issues. Okay, and as Kathy said, there's several people coming from different agencies that have contact with people with autism. So the goal is all of us to work together for better outcomes. And this is a night where families of children with disabilities can voice their concerns, and the police and fire department will tell them how they can assist them with information. The goal is to get these people into the 911 computer system so they can get that heads-up call. Coupled with the training, everybody's going to be on the same page during that response. And we ask first responders, how valuable is that information to have it when you're going out the door or responding to that call that you know there's somebody with a disability? And they said it's very valuable.
And I want to be sure we give all the information about when and where this session is coming up and who should come.
So it's on Tuesday, February 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Dennis Police Station, which is at 90 Bob Kroll Road in South Dennis, right off of exit 9B on Route 6. And we encourage family members, certainly, but friends as well, and professionals, people involved with Forward who are interested in learning more about the community we're developing in Dennis. And I think, just to echo what Bill is saying, for parents and family members, the comfort level is really important. And the getting to know the police department, the last police training, one of the things that came out of it with one of our grandparents was that she talked to the police about bringing her 10-year-old grandson to tour the police station. So to develop a relationship with the community is very important.
Very important stuff. And unfortunately, we are out of time. We've been talking about an upcoming program that is safety training for families of children with special needs. Thank you, Kathy Ohman from Forward, Bill Cannata from ALEC, and Glenn Loomis and Troy Smith from Capabilities for being with me here today.
Thank you, Laura.
Great. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.